Oh, hey, I wasn't expecting you. My challenge to write as many words as possible in one day is next week, not today. You can stay if you want, though. I'm currently trying to write a short story. Maybe you can even write along with me. Now, when I write a short story, I like to write as many ideas down as I possibly can and then pick the one that really pops off the page. Now, when I brainstorm, I like to write all my ideas down on paper because I feel like it really helps me think more. For this writing session, I'm actually writing a short story for my challenge to write a short story every single week of this year. The collection of short stories is called Well, Now What, and I update it every week on Wattpad. It's linked below if you want to check it out. I basically update it every single Sunday. Well, I will be updating it every single Sunday. I've only done one so far at the time of making this video. And it's basically about an apocalypse that never happened, and it follows the way people react after the world doesn't end when they expected it to. A lot of the stories cover really bad decisions that were made because the characters thought they wouldn't matter. Which reminds me, if you thought the world was ending tomorrow, what would you do today? Let me know in the comments. I promise I won't steal your ideas for a short story. Or will I? Anyway, it's already 7:30 and I gotta get the story published by midnight, so let's get brainstorming.
Now, I had a notebook where I brainstormed ideas last week, but I kind of lost it. But that's okay, because if it's a good idea, it'll come back to me anyway. I mean, at least I hope it would come back to me. Otherwise, that would kind of suck. It's kind of a scary thought to think about how many good ideas you've had for books or things that you just forgot about and never wrote down. Or even worse, ideas you wrote down and just never looked at again. Anyway, let's talk about writing short stories again before I have an existential crisis.
Alright, I got a couple good ideas here. For this Sunday short story, I'm trying to do something with a bit of a smaller scale. I have a couple good ideas for bigger picture short stories to really tie the collection together, but for today I kind of want to work on something more basic. That is one of the ideas for this collection though. I want all these short stories to stand on their own, but also tell a bigger story together, if that makes sense. So as you can see, I have a couple ideas here. I didn't fill the entire page, but I'm kind of on a time crunch, so we're gonna go with what I have here. All these ideas are pretty general too, and I don't do too much outlining either. I kind of like to develop the story as I write it. One idea I have that I think is pretty cool is a government trying to decide what to do about crime after people committed them, assuming that the world would end. For me though, I feel like that's a bigger picture story, so I'm gonna save this one for now. I also have an idea to write a text exchange between a couple who one of them cheated during the apocalypse, so now they're fighting about it. I'm super single right now though, so I don't really relate to that idea so much. I also have an idea of a man who had an apocalypse bunker and now he's trying to decide whether or not he wants to come out. I feel like I should save that idea though until I write a couple more short stories depicting how horrible this world is since the world didn't end. I think I'm gonna do this one though. It's about a cult who claims responsibility for making the asteroid vanish. I think that's a pretty fun idea. Now that I have my idea, it's time to get my computer and get comfortable so I can start writing. And it's already 8 o'clock, so I gotta get moving. Okay, so I sat down to start writing and then I kind of realized I didn't really know how cult works, so I decided to watch a couple videos on how cults work instead. So that ate up a good chunk of time, but at least now I have some inspiration or a better idea on how to write the story. We'll see how this one goes. I'm kind of in a time crunch now. From this point on, no more distractions. So I've done all my research and now I'm just trying to come up with the perfect opening line. Opening lines are always super important. I tend to get really stuck on the first line of things I write. I always want it to be perfect. I also find writing the first line of a short story to be a little more difficult. I think one of the main reasons is it's a little harder to find out where's the best place for you to start the story, especially since you're starting so much closer to the end. But yeah, I've already deleted 4 or 5 first lines that I just felt were not good enough. Typically in these writing sessions though, once I get the first line that I kind of like or I can kind of sit on and come back to later, then the rest of the writing really starts to flow. Or at least I'm hoping it'll flow because I'm really running out of time here.
Next time I do a time lapse, I have to actively work on not making that face I make when I write because I cannot stand looking at that face. The actual writing actually went pretty well though, so I guess I can't really complain. At least it wasn't in public.
So in this short story, I'm basically depicting an interaction between a cult member and I guess you'd call it their victim. A cult member and their victim trying to get them into the cult. Right now, I'm a little past halfway through the story, and I'm really trying to emphasize that, I don't know, that feeling where the cult leader is acting super friendly and smiling, but also find a way to kind of hint that something's up, beneath all that. This is the type of scene that I would typically avoid writing because I would feel like I'm not good enough to write a scene like this. So I'm glad I'm challenging myself with it here so soon. That's also one of my goals with this collection of short stories that I'm going to be writing throughout the year. I really want to push myself with some of these short stories instead of doing stuff that I feel comfortable with. And as I move forward with this challenge, I definitely want to continue to find ways to push myself past my comfort zone when it comes to writing some of these scenes for short stories. I definitely think some of that will come from writing in different genres other than sci-fi and comedy, which is where I feel comfortable. And then a scene like this is also a great example. Alright, so I got the short story written. I'm gonna go put it in Grammarly now and then edit it as I go. In a normal scenario, I normally like to let a story sit for a little bit before I touch it, even if that's a couple hours. That way I can get a more fresh perspective when I go back to it. But it's already 11 o'clock and this has to be on Wattpad by 12, so I don't really have time for that. While I edit, I don't only just take the grammatical advice from Grammarly, I also go through and read it and try to feel if anything feels off, if the tone is consistent with what I want. Maybe I'll add a line here or there to really complete the story. I also came up with a title that I really like for this short story. The title I came up with for this one was You're Not Alone. And what I like about it is it has a really positive ring to it, but it actually has some negative undertones. The You're Not Alone line is kind of like luring the main character into the cult. I don't know, I thought it was pretty clever when I first thought of it. It's also a line of dialogue that appears in the short story, so I thought that was a nice touch. All right, chapter 2 of Welp, Now What? You're Not Alone is now up on Wattpad. If I'm being honest with myself, I think it's a pretty good short story. I think I could have done better, but considering how much time I had and how I was really struggling to connect with an idea, and also considering it was my first time trying to write a scene like this, considering how unnatural it felt for me to write this scene, I just felt like I did a pretty good job. The total word count of this story is 1,751 words. Which also means I wrote 1,751 words today, so way to go me. And that's not even including all the words I deleted and rewrote. I'm pretty sure the first short story I wrote for Welp Now What was also around 1,700 words, so I'm definitely going to try to vary up the length next week, depending on how busy of a week it is. I might try to do a flash fiction, meaning it's under 1,000 words, or I might try to write a longer one. In general, anything under 7,000 words is considered a short story for the most part. There is some wiggle room there, but that's kind of what I try to stick to. It's simpler in my head. Anyway, I'm going to link Welp Now What in the captions below, so be sure to check it out. And if you do take the time to read it, first of all, thank you very much. And second of all, give me an honest opinion on what you think. If you like something about it, sure, I'd love to hear about it. But I also want to hear what you don't like about it, because that's how I can learn to improve with the next short story. Seriously, if you don't like something about it, tell me. I can handle it. I totally won't flip out or anything. That's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like it if you haven't already. It really helps me out. Also, if you're not already, subscribe. What are you waiting for? Thank you again so much for watching and good luck on your writing journeys. And if you enjoyed this video, I feel like you'll probably enjoy this one too, so be sure to check it out.